Hi, I'm Melissa at last, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to my garden, Rose Ether Cherub. Today we are talking about how your influence, it comes with responsibility. Now, we've talked about responsibility before, but it was more in our personal realm, not in how we're walking and what we're doing, and when we're teaching and helping others, how that influence that we're building, that the reputation that God is granting us, how it's a true responsibility. We talked a little bit about it in the previous video and the videos before that. All are centered around God and how He's bringing you into leadership. And as you grow and you continue your walk, leadership is the responsibility that comes with this walk. The further and the more time that you spend with God. And within that, influence will grow. And then it's also another responsibility that is placed on you, that is given to you. So we have to speak carefully. We have to speak purposefully. And we have to lead others and ourselves with complete integrity. So, people listen and they learn and they are impacted by our words. They're inspired by how we move and the things that we're completing in God's light and how God moves through us in our light, in our life, and how we are a representation of that. It inspires people and it makes people want to have that for themselves, grow that relationship for themselves. So when people see that and are inspired, our responsibility comes to always uphold that. Once we move forward and we become that and God gives us that, we have to take it seriously, and we can't backstep or be lazy in that regard. We can't decide one day we're not going to do this. There's big consequences if you make that decision once you come this far with God. And this is not to cause fear, but this is just to understand the true serious realm that you're moving within, the true serious responsibility that is now placed upon you because God has given you so much. So to kind of delve deeper into that frame of thought, we have Luke 12:48 today. This is our corresponding verse. So in Luke chapter 12, verse 48, now see, we're in the red word, so this is Jesus speaking. But he that, and again, right now, it's going to get very OE biblical, okay? So if you are not comfortable with the KJV translation, now's the time to pull out your Bible with your preferred translation so that we can read along together. So, verse 48, but he that knew not and did commit things worthy of stripes shall be beaten with few stripes. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall much be required. And to whom men have committed much, of him they will ask for more. Now see, I would say all the way up to 41, because this is Peter asking Christ. Peter said unto him, Lord, speakest thou this parable to us, or even to all? And 42, and the Lord said, who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household, and to give them their portion of meat in due season? 43, blessed is that servant, whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. And then we're going to go back down to 48. But he that know not and did commit things worthy of stripes shall be beaten with few stripes. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required. And to whom men have committed much, of him they will ask for more. And see, this is something that Christ was teaching the disciples to, since they moved so closely with him and they walked with him, and they knew him personal in a regard that the multitude could not, they are going to have much more on them. So if the multitude, if somebody who loves Christ but didn't walk with him, who wanted to know God but didn't form that relationship for whatever reason, if they sin, if they do things that are against God's will, if they do things that hurt others, they're not going to be punished as harshly as those who walked with Christ, as those who know God and have that direct connection with God. And if you do anything that can potentially harm someone trying to get close to God, someone trying to live well, the criteria for your judgment is much stricter and much harsher. And the best way that I can explain this is something that I learned it was a philosophy class I took at some point in college. And I took it as a credit, and I figured it was going to be a lot more critical thinking and not so much heavy writing and stuff like that. So that's why I took it. I was like, oh, I like this. This is up my alley, philosophy. Well, part of their philosophy that they were teaching was how to break apart patterns of thought, and especially in the realms of morality, so right and wrong. So the example was given, if a young child who is 5-6 years old comes and is buying something from a grocer, right? The grocer knows that they can give, and the child gives them a big bill. The grocer who needs, perhaps doesn't have money for lunch that day or needs extra money in their pocket, they're in need of some sort. Now, they can give the child the wrong change, right? Because the child may not know or be aware on how to count that money. But if the grocer decides not to do it, then the grocer morally is correct. Even though they have a need and they could take advantage of a unsuspecting child, they choose not to. So the grocer is morally correct if they give the child the correct change. Well, in the philosophy of thought, you have to take it a step further. You have to go into the why the grocer made that choice. Now, did the grocer make that choice because it's the right thing to do? Or say the grocer made that choice because they know that that child's mother is someone who will cause a commotion, that she's the type of woman that will come in here and raise hell because you gave the child the wrong change. So did the grocer make the right choice, and were they morally correct because they knew that it was wrong to do that to somebody, to shortchange anybody, specifically a child who may not know better? Or were they afraid of the consequences that may come because they shortchanged that child and they didn't want to deal with said consequences, which would be the mama bear coming in and raising hell that you didn't give her child the right change? Because the child's going to come back to the mother. The mother's going to figure out, hey, this doesn't match up. And then your ass is going to be handed to you. So you have to go that step deeper when you are helping others and when you are walking with God and you are being that true representation of him. The morality choice has to be here and here. It has to be because this is what God is pushing me to do, not because I'm afraid of a consequence. And that makes you different, and that separates you, and that is part of the criteria that you are going to be judged on more strictly because of how you walk and who you are. So this is how we move in accountability. We keep ourselves accountable, and we make sure that our moral scales are not imbalanced in some kind of way. And specifically, I used the example prior because you have to really dig in deep and look at your mindset and look at where, am I doing something because I don't want to get punished, or am I doing this because this feels right to my spirit? Is this what God is leading me to do? And we constantly have to be in remembrance of that thought process That's why our prayer time, our meditation time, our time with our word is essential, especially when we are working with God's people, or people who want to know God and gain that relationship, especially when we're trying to teach things to people that may not have that awareness yet. There is a very heavy responsibility that honestly is a blessing, because you have the mindset to do this. You have the mindset to look at the word and understand and break it down to people who may look at it and be intimidated. Thus, being intimidated with even having a relationship with the Father. And we can't go into our interactions with people in an emotional or projecting things type state, because if you're doing that and you lead someone astray or you scare somebody off from God, understand that they're not going to get, corrected as toughly as you are. You're going to get corrected a little bit more in a little bit more strict way, because you are the eldest. You know better, and you shouldn't have done that. And now you're making things, you put a space in between another person and God, another person, and understanding that their love for Christ. You can't do that. It's different if you mistakenly, but we're here now at a point of leadership where you're doing the work. And times there's, I forget which disciple it is. I think it's James. James said sometimes it's better to not teach, because how strict the laws then become for you. So there's that too. But honestly, if you're here at this point, you're a leader, and this is what you're meant to do. And this is more along the lines of just taking that responsibility seriously, because the work is that important. That's truly what it is. The work is just that important. So when people misuse their influence, we're gonna talk a little bit about that. This is people who want the attention more. People who are trying to scare and act like they know more, and keep people wanting to come to them instead of implementing that relationship with God, instead of teaching people what they need to know so they can continue their next steps and growing their faith. And you're going to find and come across many of these people, you probably already have, and they preach damnation. They preach fear. They're preaching the devil, 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 the Satan, 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 and blaming, pushing off all accountability and responsibility onto an entity that can supposedly control them, that is supposedly, creating all these things in their life or your life, that you have to fight against. And there are things in the spiritual and in the physical realm that, yes, will give you pushback. But honestly, you can transcend all of those things when you are doing the work necessary to stay close to God. And anybody who is not preaching that and is making you feel fearful, or making you think that you have to buy this book or these oils or whatever it is, anything that is pushing an ideology outside of just connecting to God and getting through it and learning the lesson, you have to be weary of that. You have to be aware of, where is this conversation? Where is this preaching truly bringing me? And a lot of people, even though we get personal from time to time, a lot of people will, in the beginning of how they're speaking or starting a video or starting a live stream, they will speak about God for a short amount of time to draw you in. And then it's going to be all about them and promoting something that they want to promote. And then they'll sprinkle in a little bit of scripture, a little bit of God, and then it's back to them again, or the devil or Satan or whatever it is. So just be aware of how somebody speaks. And if you find that you yourself are beginning to do that, then you are misusing your influence. And people are going to be drawn to you because you're speaking God's name. And people want to know more about God. People look at the word and they don't necessarily take in what it is that you've taken in or understand it in a format. So having someone else explain it to them, that's very helpful to them. And a lot of people take advantage of people needing to be taught in that way. So your influence impacts others because they are looking at you. They're like, okay, this person is a representation of what is possible, of what I want for myself. They have a great relationship with God, and I can see God's light in them. How do I get there? So that's why your influence is important. And the way you use it to direct them back to God. And if you're doing anything outside of that, just know you're gonna get a pow pow. You're gonna get spanked because this is what we're here for. This is why God shines his light through you and blesses you the way that he does, because he understands that, hey, you can bring in more people. This is truly a fisherman of men that can bring more people to me that are creating my will on this earth. So they can do it, and I'm going to continue to bless them and show that what my love is, what a relationship with me looks like through them. So your influence matters, and what you do with it is truly your responsibility. The thing for me is loving God out loud. So I have some shirts that have different slogans or sayings about God, and I wear them proudly, and I wear them everywhere whenever I go out. And I noticed, like, when I dropped my son off to school, that other people were beginning to wear like their faith shirts, and a lot of his, his RBTs and his tutors and stuff like that, and they begin wearing their crucifixes and just being more proud of their faith and being more proud of their relationship with God and bringing up God more easily. Sometimes in professional settings, a lot of people tend to not say religious things in fear of getting in trouble. But now they know when they come across me, they come across my son. My son wears God Says I Am, and it's a bunch of different dinosaurs that have different scriptures underneath them. And I get told often so much, oh, they love that shirt. It's adorable. And two, there's a supermarket kind of close to where his school is that I stop sometimes. And there's a woman there that she saw I had a shirt that said God's favorite. And she's like, well, since you're God's favorite, can you tell him that I said hi? And I looked at her and I was like, well, did you say your prayers this morning? And she's like, I did. I said the rosary. And then she told me the other prayers. I think it was like the act of contrition that she had said as well. So whenever I see her now in the grocery store, I tell her, I'm like, did you pray your rosary this morning? And she tells me, yeah. And then she tells me the other prayers that she prayed alongside it. And we begin a conversation. And we begin to love God out loud. And to me, that's one of the, it's a strong act of faith that you can do and that you can show. And you can show other people that it's okay to love God out loud, that they're safe around you. And it's good to celebrate God and be happy and speak about him no matter where you are, public setting or not. So I learned that it's good to do that. And then I think other people are waiting to see that, or waiting for maybe it to be known that it's okay, that they can love God out loud, that they can be happy about their faith, and they can boast in their God, and they're not going to get pushed back, and they can be strong about it, and they can be loud about it, and they can you're truly showing people that having God as their banner is a great thing to do, and is something that they should do and continuously do, because you don't know who you're sending that great alert out to do it as well, and to have a smile on their face, and maybe give remembrance to pray or read the Bible, or to know that God is present in this earth. So first and foremost, you keep your responsibility surrounded within your influence by keeping your relationship close-knit to God, by making sure that your spiritual practices are something that you're not swaying away from, that your prayer, your meditation, that extra time with God, the extra time in really learning your word and delving deeper, but also being honest when you don't understand things as well. All of that creates an open space for authenticity that most people need to see. and most people will begin to respect, and then they can move in authenticity. They don't have to mask and act like they know everything, or they don't have to shy away or feel embarrassed because they don't know something. So you move in honesty, and you speak respectfully, and you're there to uplift spirits. And when you really keep that in the center of your mind and your heart, you really become this moving place, this moving safe space that illuminates God's life. And you're constantly moving everywhere, and you have no idea who you're impacting, but you take that responsibility seriously. And that's the important part. So you can continue doing those things daily. You're going to begin to understand and grow a reputation. And God's going to give you more responsibility. And that's a good thing. That is a blessing. You still have your childlike wonder and heart to you, friend, but you have really grown and matured as a leader. So I'm proud of you, and I'm proud to know you. And remember that I love you, but God loves you more. See you next time.